Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Kinder. I'm going to teach you the first 10 amendments through hand motions. So pay attention and make sure you practice them yourself because it will help you memorize all of the first 10 amendments, and you just need to be able to count your fingers when you're doing it. So for the first amendment, we have 5 freedoms that you have to remember, and I told you guys in class that you have to remember them by RAPS. So RAPPS, right? So religion, assembly, press, petition, speech. So I'm going to go through those hand motions for you now for the first 5 freedoms. So you got freedom of religion, assembly, press, petition, and speech. And then the Second Amendment, it is 2 fingers, Second Amendment, and it's the right to bear arms. So we make a gun with our fingers, just don't point it at anyone. And this is the Second Amendment, right to bear arms or have a gun. Third Amendment, it's no quartering of soldiers. So we put my 3 soldiers up, these are my 3 fingers, and then I also created a quarter with my fingers. So quartering is referring to not having to house the soldiers, but in this case, I'm making it like a quarter, like a coin that we would hold, right? So it's about the size of a quarter. So no quartering of soldiers. The Fourth Amendment, we're gonna knock on a door, so use the first 4 knuckles there on your hand. So knock, knock, open up. It's the police. We have a warrant. So when we're talking about the Fourth Amendment, it's no search and seizure without a warrant or probable cause. So we use the 4 knuckles, knock on the door, knock, knock, open up. We're the police, we have a warrant. Amendment number 5, so that's referring to the Fifth Amendment. All 5 fingers covering the mouth. We say you have the right to remain silent. Also, because you have to know eminent domain, that is pay me for my property. So we got 5 fingers, pay me for my property. The government has to pay you if they're gonna take away your property. Number 6, the Sixth Amendment, so 6 fingers. We're gonna point at our watch on our wrist. So we'll close these 5, one more, 6, point at our watch and be like a speedy trial. We have the right to a speedy trial. And you have the right to a lawyer, so we're gonna pick up that briefcase. So the right to a speedy trial and a lawyer. Number 7, so this one's kind of a harder one to remember. You make 7 fingers like this, turn this one like this, and it says anybody is allowed to have a jury trial in a civil case as long as it costs more than $20. So if you're suing someone for more than $20, back in 1700s, then that would mean you can have the right to a jury trial in a civil case. And then the Eighth Amendment, so we're gonna take our hand and stack them like this, and it's gonna look like an 8, right? The top of the 8, the bottom of the 8, you stack them up like this, and we kind of ream it like this, roll your hands together like that, and it's no cruel or unusual punishment. So it's like you're twisting someone's neck, or you could think of like I'm grinding pepper in someone's eyes, like, you know, those pepper grinders. And so think about it like no cruel or unusual punishment. That'd be an odd way to, to be punished, to have pepper ground in your eyes. Then number 9, the Ninth Amendment. So we put our hands like this. I got my thumb in here. So even though the Constitution doesn't list all of our rights, it doesn't mean they don't exist. Just like if my thumb is down, it doesn't mean I don't have 10 fingers, right? My 9 fingers are up. My thumb still exists even though it's not up. Just like in the Constitution, just because it's not written down doesn't mean that you lost that right. You still have the rights even if they're not written down. Number 10, 10 fingers, pointing up. You may have already heard this one before. I've taught it to you before when we studied federalism. So the 10th Amendment is what establishes federalism, and that is the one that says that any power not delegated to the federal government gets pushed back or reserved to the states and the people. You pump it twice because it's states and the people. You need to know both parts. So if it's not a power given to the federal government or delegated to them, it's reserved to the states and the people. And those are your 10 amendments for the Bill of Rights.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to make sure I explained what the First Amendment, like hand motion, actually represented. So I told you guys the First Amendment was 1 finger and we pointed up, right? We were pointing up to like God, religion, they're referring to religion. So the first one, freedom of religion. And that's why I pointed up at the sky, right? And then number 2, the second freedom in the First Amendment was talking about assembly. So if we are assembling a group of people, you might be like, come on over here, come here. And you're calling people over to you. That's why we use 1 finger to assemble. And then the third one was press. And so press, we're referring, you saw me do this, right? And you're like, what the heck is she doing? So when I did this, I'm pretending like I'm writing in a newspaper. So freedom of the press has to do with freedom of our media and journalists to freely write articles and not be worried about any kind of repercussions for maybe writing a negative article about someone in the government. And they're able to do that because we have freedom of the press. So that was that. Okay. And then petition, you saw me do this. This was talking about me scolding or petitioning the government. So if I'm petitioning the government, I'm like, I don't like what you're doing. Like, what you're doing is not something I agree with, and I want you to change. And so that's why the one finger for the First Amendment, and we're doing this, it's because I'm referring to the government doing something wrong that I disagree with. So we're like, bad government. And then the last one was freedom of speech, and we all point at our lips because that's where we talk from, right? So freedom of religion, assembly, press, petition, and speech. And so those are the 5 freedoms in the First Amendment and why each of those hand motions applies.